The Arizona sun beat down with a punishing heat that made the air shimmer and the earth crack open. Like it was thirsting for mercy, Clint Morgan had lived through many summers on this lonely stretch of land, but even he felt the day pressing on him like a heavy hand. He had just returned from repairing a broken fence when he saw movement far beyond. The corral, slow, unsteady, like someone dragging themselves across the desert. At first, he thought it was a mirage. The figure was so tall, it didn't seem real, almost like the shadow of a giant cast over the sand. But as it came closer, Clint realized it was a girl, an Apache girl, towering, strong-shouldered, with legs that carried her awkwardly as if they were about to give out. Her long black hair hung in tangled strands, and her lips were cracked white from thirst. He gripped his rifle instinctively. Apache territory was near, and he knew the risks. But when she lifted her eyes to him, he saw no hostility, only desperation. She stopped a few feet from the well, breathing like each inhale was a battle. "Water," she whispered, her voice so faint Clint barely heard it. Something inside him shifted. She was just a girl, big, yes, powerful, yes, but exhausted to the point of collapse. Clint lowered his rifle and moved toward the well slowly, hands visible. He didn't want her to think it was a trick. "Come on," he said gently. "You'll fall over before you get a drink at this rate." She followed him, though every step looked painful. When he dipped the wooden cup and handed it to her, she drank with a desperation that startled him. She gulped the first cup, then the second, then a third. Water spilled down her chin and onto her torn clothes, but she didn't care. Relief washed over her face with each swallow. Clint tried to ask what happened, but the girl simply shook her head. There was fear in her eyes, fear of something behind her, something approaching. "I must go," she said suddenly. "They're coming." "Who?" Clint asked, but she had already stepped back, wobbling slightly, yet determined. "My people." Then she turned and sprinted away with surprising strength, leaving Clint staring after her, confused and uneasy. That night, he couldn't get her face out of his mind, those grateful, frightened eyes. And the next morning, when he stepped outside, his blood froze. 300 Apache warriors surrounded his ranch, and the giant girl stood in front, watching him. Clint had seen dangerous situations before, but nothing compared to waking up to a sea of Apache warriors encircling his ranch. Their horses stood like an iron wall, nostrils flared, hooves pawing the dirt. Warriors sat tall in their saddles, faces painted with symbols of war, honor, and judgment. The air was so still, it felt like even the wind was afraid to move. Clint stepped slowly onto his porch, hands lifted. His heart pounded so loudly, he wondered if they could hear it. The crowd parted, and the giant Apache girl, Tall Moon, rode forward on a black horse. She no longer looked weak or desperate. She sat straight and proud, her expression calm yet unreadable, her clothes repaired and decorated with tribal beads that caught the sunlight. The transformation was startling. She looked like royalty among them. Behind her, a man stepped down from his horse. He was older, broad-shouldered, with long braids streaked with gray, and eyes sharp as a hawk's. Clint didn't need an introduction. He knew this was a chief. "You gave water to my daughter," the man said, his voice carrying the authority of an entire people. Clint's breath caught. "Daughter?" Tall Moon glanced at him, a shy flicker in her eyes, as if embarrassed by the attention. "I just gave her water," Clint said carefully. "No," Tall Moon corrected softly. "You saved me." Her voice shook with emotion she tried to hide. Clint looked at her more closely. She wasn't just grateful. She was conflicted, torn between her duty and her heart. Warriors began forming a wide circle around Clint, not threatening him but containing him. It felt ceremonial. He sensed this was something ancient, something sacred. The chief placed a heavy hand on Clint's shoulder, not rough, but firm like a man delivering truth. "You saved the life of a chief's daughter," he said. "In our law, that creates a debt, a great debt." Clint felt relief. "If you want repayment," the chief shook his head. "It is not we who repay. It is you who must choose how the bond between us will be sealed." Clint's relief evaporated. "There are only two paths," the chief continued. "Brotherhood, where we claim you as kin." His eyes shifted to Tall Moon. or marriage, where our families become one. Clint stared. Tall Moon looked equally stunned. The chief raised his hand. We camp here until sunrise? At dawn, you choose your path. And just like that, 300 warriors settled in around Clint's ranch, waiting for his answer. Clint barely slept that night. The glow of Apache campfires painted, the walls of his cabin in restless shades of orange, and every distant drumbeat echoed like a reminder that his life was no longer in his own hands. The warriors outside talked quietly, their voices drifting in and out like wind through canyon walls. Even the horses seemed to sense the tension, stamping and snorting through the night. Clint lay awake thinking of Tall Moon, the giant girl whose life he had saved without realizing what it would mean. At dawn, a soft sound came from his porch. 3 gentle knocks. Clint opened the door carefully, half expecting a warrior demanding an answer. Instead, Tall Moon stood there, holding a small clay cup that steamed in the cool morning air. Sunlight caught in her long hair, giving her an almost ethereal glow. "This tea is for calming," she said quietly. "If your heart is troubled—" Clint took it, surprised by the tenderness in her voice. "You don't seem troubled," he said. She gave a small, nervous laugh. "I am my father. He makes decisions like a river in flood, fast, loud, and unstoppable." Then her expression softened. "I don't want you forced into anything." Clint looked at her, really looked. She was tall, strong, intimidating at first glance, but her eyes told another story. They held uncertainty, gratitude, and a strange curiosity about him that made his chest tighten. She wasn't asking for marriage. She was asking for understanding. "Do you want this?" Clint asked. Tall Moon hesitated. Her fingers tightened slightly around the edge of her blanket. "I want peace," she said finally, "and I want to honor what you did. But I will not let my father tie you to me if you do not choose it." Before Clint could respond, the drums outside grew louder. The chief was calling the tribe to gather. Tall Moon gave him a small nod, a silent promise that whatever he chose, she would respect it. They walked out together. The warriors formed a great circle around them, their faces solemn. The chief stepped forward, staff in hand, symbols of authority hanging from it like small spirits. "Clint Morgan," he declared, "today you choose your bond with us." Clint felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on him. Tall Moon stood beside him, tall and silent, waiting. "I choose." His voice caught. His heart pounded. "The path that honors your daughter and honors your people." The chief leaned forward. "Then speak it plainly." Clint inhaled deeply and opened his mouth to seal his fate.